Nestor were not home. My certainty was so profound that I stopped my car. I was at the place where the asphalt came to an abrupt end, and I wanted to reconsider whether or not to continue that day the long and difficult drive on the steep, coarse gravel road to their hometown in the mountains of central Mexico. I rolled down the window of my car. It was rather windy and cold. I got out to stretch my legs. The tension of driving for hours had stiffened my back and neck. I walked to the edge of the paved road. The ground was wet from an early shower. Rain was still falling heavily on the slopes of the mountains to the south, a short distance from where I was, but right in front of me, toward the east and also toward the north, the sky was clear. At certain points on the winding road, I had been able to see the bluish peaks of the Sierras, shining in the sunlight a great distance away. After a moment's deliberation, I decided to turn back and go to the city because I had had a most peculiar feeling that I was going to find Don Juan in the market. After all, I had always done just that, found him in the marketplace, since the beginning of my association with him. As a rule, if I didn't find him in Sonora, I would drive to central Mexico and go to the market of that particular city, and sooner or later Don Juan would show up. The longest I had ever waited for him was 2 days. I was so habituated to meeting him in that manner that I had the most absolute certainty that I would find him again, as always. I waited in the market all afternoon. I walked up and down the aisles pretending to be looking for something to buy. Then I waited around the park. At dusk, I knew that he wasn't coming. I had then the clear sensation that he had been there, but had left. I sat down on a park bench where I used to sit with him and tried to analyze my feelings. Upon arriving in the city, I was elated with the sure knowledge that Don Juan was there in the streets. What I felt was more than the memory of having found him there countless times before. My body knew that he was looking for me. But then, as I sat on the bench, I had another kind of strange certainty. I knew that he was not there any more. He had left, and I had missed him. After a while, I discarded my speculations. I thought that I was beginning to be affected by the place. I was starting to get irrational. That had always happened to me in the past after a few days in that area. I went to my hotel room to rest for a few hours, and then I went out again to roam the streets. I didn't have the same expectation of finding Don Juan that I had had in the afternoon. I gave up. I went back to my hotel in order to get a good night's sleep. Before I headed for the mountains in the morning, I drove up and down the main streets in my car, but somehow I knew that I was wasting my time. Don Juan was not there. It took me all morning to drive to the little town where Pablito and Nestor lived. I arrived around noon. Don Juan had taught me never to drive directly into the town so as not to arouse the curiosity of onlookers. Every time I had been there, I had always driven off the road just before reaching the town onto a flat field where youngsters usually played soccer. The dirt was well packed all the way to a walking trail which was wide enough for a car and which passed by Pablito's and Nestor's houses in the foothills south of town. As soon as I got to the edge of the field, I found that the walking trail had been turned into a gravel road. I deliberated whether to go to Nestor's house or Pablito's. The feeling that they were not there still persisted. I opted to go to Pablito's. I reasoned that Nestor lived alone, while Pablito lived with his mother and his 4 sisters. If he was not there, the women could help me find him. As I got closer to his house, I noticed that the path leading from the road up to the house had been widened. It looked as if the ground was hard, and since there was enough space for my car, I drove almost to the front door. A new porch with a tile roof had been added to the adobe house. There were no dogs barking, but I saw an enormous one, sitting calmly behind a fenced area, alertly observing me. A flock of chickens that had been feeding in front of the house scattered around, cackling.